Making Regalia is made possible in part by Bernina of Oklahoma City, providers of quality, precision sewing machines. And by War Child Society, designers of native apparel, t-shirts, decals, and more. And by generous contributions from viewers like you.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've finally made it to our final episode here in Season 2 of Making Regalia with me, Joaquin Lone Lodge, based here in Concho, Oklahoma. I've got another awesome show for you today. Today I got none other than Terra Houska once again. And today we are going to make, Muppet moccasins?
Yep, they're more of a contemporary baby fashionable moccasin.
Right. This is for all the little Muppets out there, or you can even say you can make these for your doll, or even teach your little girls, like how to do these, because, this is always a good step, making little moccasins, so they actually learn the mechanics of it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and then so I see you got different colors as far as different ones. What kind of leather are we working with this?
This is actually pig leather.
Okay, I've worked with that before.
And it's more reasonable price-wise.
Yes.
Dyed. Like some of these, the blue and the red, those are cow, and those were pretty expensive.
Right.
So, and this is easy to sew with. I use a sewing machine. It's a lot easier to work with.
Perfect for making Muppet moccasins, a pair of pants, some nice swim shorts, I think. That would go good, I think.
Pigskin swim shorts?
It works.
Is that what you wear?
Heck yeah. All right. So, this idea that you came up with this, like how to make it like this style, where'd you get the idea for this?
Well, on Instagram, I've seen a lot of people who are non-native making moccasins and building big companies out of them.
Oh, right.
Their patterns were a little bit different and a lot different than what we use for the traditional Lakota moccasin. So I kind of modified our moccasin to where it looked like theirs, but it's a little different. So I came up with my own pattern.
Yeah, I think I've seen those at some of the truck stops and stuff like that. I was actually going to get a pair one time and wear them through Grand Entry, but yeah.
Didn't have your size?
No,
in pink?
not that time. Now that I know, following your steps, I could probably make my own this time. So.
Yeah, they're really actually simple. And, if you have a little one that's walking, you can always add a hard sole, but I wouldn't use the sewing machine for the hard sole.
Yeah, and this is good because, when they have when babies are little tiny, they grow really fast. And, that's one of the things is if you put a lot of effort into it, you do a lot of fully beaded, they grow out of them so quick,
Yeah.
It's and you got to start another set.
This is kind of a moccasin that you can wear every day.
Okay, and so to get this started, how are we going to do this? I see you already got some templates drawn out, right?
Yep, and I just did these real quick, and I have a left side and a right side recycled paper. So I only have 4 templates, and what I'm going to do is trace each of them, left side, right side, and then we'll cut them out, and then I'll show you step by step how to put them together.
Okay, and I see this one that says this right here. This is the very first template that you're going to be doing because this is actually the actual outline of their foot, right?
Yeah, and the way I do it is leather's expensive, so I try to fit and get every square inch or space out of my leather. Mm-hmm. So what I do is I lay them out to where I'm going to cut them out. And then I usually start with the bigger one first.
Okay.
Because my bigger one takes up more space, and I can squeeze the foot in between both sides of the top. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but what I was also talking about is when you first start this out, how do you get, you start from this is actually their footprint.
Yep.
How do you get to this part?
So you trace baby's foot, and you make it even so, you don't have to cut out each individual toe. And then I put it on a piece of paper, and I just kind of make my own template. So I just come out a little bit. I've heard certain people say you go out 2 inches or 1.25 inches or whatever, but I'm famous for eyeballing stuff.
Understood.
Right?
But, to the people out there, I've done that before where, the outline of your foot, I usually go about 1.5 inches. And that way it gives me, good measurement to play around with.
Yeah.
And what I like to do I do this exact same thing with paper. I use paper, but you can actually construct it with the paper.
Yep.
And kind of see how it looks. And then you can put it around their foot and kind of cut here if you need to.
Yep, that's exactly what I do too.
Right.
You know, that gives you, and you end up with a little bit of space at the end right here, but that's okay. You can
Yeah.
always use that. What I started doing is I don't waste any scraps. I don't throw any scraps away. And so I use those to make like bows to put on top of them or hair ties or whatever.
That's very cool. Now, the other pieces that you got from your templates, where do you come up with those?
So this right here is going to go around the outside of the moccasin and it's going to be fringed. So this one I'm going to sew here and I'll cut fringes.
Oh, okay. I
This
get you.
one's going to be a tongue, but it's not going to be your typical tongue. It's going to fold like this and it'll lay here and there'll be a loop through here and this will become fringe. And
Wow.
then I will use my cool elastic to put through it so you don't have to tie them.
Okay.
So they're adjustable.
That's cool. Because, you know, babies, you know, you can always switch them out when you need to and stuff like that. So
Yes.
I like the idea of the stretchy.
Yeah, well, you know, so many baby moccasins, they just kick them right off if they're not taller or you don't wrap them tight. And you don't want to wrap a baby's moccasins too tight. So that's where the elastic comes in handy.
Very cool. So, ladies and gentlemen, Terra here is actually just going to jump right into it. Now, you say you were going to actually draw this onto the leather, right?
Yes, and I use an ink pen just because it's easier. It sticks to the leather. You cut it out anyway. You don't see it. But one thing you want to make sure you do is you draw it on the inside of your leather.
Yeah.
So this is going to be the outside of the moccasin, and this is going to be the inside.
Yeah, because, you know, you don't want to have those drawn lines when you finish actually putting it all together. You'll see ink marks and stuff like
Yes.
that. So you always want to try to hide that stuff and kind of put it on the inside. Because when you sew it together, you won't see them.
When I draw my patterns, I write left and right on them, otherwise you forget. And I also write it on the pattern that I draw because you want to match it up with the feet.
That's good.
Because I do kind of make a little curve for a toe. Sometimes people don't for babies because I don't know why, but they just do.
So you always got to make sure you draw a right side and a left side. You can't have two banana feet, right?
Yes. So this one's left. And then make sure you flip it for the right. I've actually accidentally made more left sides before than right.
And this is what you were telling me like a minute ago, that you want to utilize as much space as possible, so you put
Yep.
it together.
Yep, I put it as close as I can to the other lines, so I'm not wasting.
Yeah.
So you just kind of get your money's worth.
Natives waste nothing.
Nothing. I actually use the scraps of my leather also to stuff my turtles that I put the umbilical cords in. So
Oh,
I
wow.
save the scraps of leather for that too. I don't throw anything away.
So about Terra, how long does usually, since you got this down, how long does it usually take you to construct these?
What I usually do is I cut out a bunch of the patterns first and I have them prepared. And you can put together a pair of these moccasins with a sewing machine in 15 minutes.
Wow. Hear that, ladies and gentlemen? 15 minutes and you're ready for grand entry. That's insane. I think I want to see if I can do my own foot. You think I can throw my foot up there and make me a pair of blue set?
Sure. Okay, so we got right, we got left.
I would be styling. I'd wear them all the way to work.
Put some hard soles on them, some bells, some fringe.
Nah, I think I might wear them to the club too.
Okay,
We can call them Terra Houskas.
Terra Houskas.
So this is the actual template of the foot, right?
Yes.
All right.
So this is the bottom of the moccasin.
And of course, you got to write, R on there for the right foot.
Yes.
And then flip it over, trace it out again for L.
See, I really do try to save as much space. And like if you see these wrinkles in the leather from it being folded, from storing it, I wouldn't really worry about that because when the baby puts them on, those wrinkles are going to come out.
Mm-hmm.
There's the left. And on these, the feet, since this is the inside of it, I write it by the toe just so it's not right here. I mean, you could also write it right here so that when the parent the parent or whoever's putting the moccasins on the baby, they know which one goes on the right and which one goes on the left.
Yeah. It's totally idiot-proof.
Okay, so this part is going to be the part that's going around the moccasin, the outside of it, and it's going to be fringed. So that's what I'm drawing now.
Right on.
And you need 2 of those. You need 2 of everything.
Yeah. And once again, I see that, you know, you're trying to save as much of the leather as possible, so
Yep.
putting it close together. Very cool. Very economic.
Yes. And you know, also using recycled paper for my patterns. Mostly because I forgot my pattern, but...
What is that, a doctor's note? So now we're at the part where Terra is going to cut this out, all the little pieces, and we're going to kind of see how it's starting to form together. About Terra, where do you actually get your leather from?
You know, I kind of find it at different places. Most recently, I found this leather at the Red Earth Powwow here in Oklahoma City, and they set up every year, and it's reasonably priced. It's probably the best prices I found for this hide. I think I paid $40, so it's
Wow.
between $30 and $40. And I bought in the cow leather before at like Tandy's, but that I'm paying $80. When I buy the gold or the silver, it's $175.
Gold moccasins.
Yes,
That's what's
those
up.
are awesome.
I'm down. I'm putting an order in for that one.
Gold, silver, snakeskin. I could do some pointed snakeskin moccasins for you.
As long as they're comfortable, I'll rock it. So right here, once again, you know, this is actually pigskin, right?
Yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, and I've utilized it before. A long time ago, I actually got, I think it was thicker, and I used it for the sole for like a little girl, and it lasted for a long time too.
Yeah, and you know, it's a little easier to come by. It's easy to work with. I
Yeah.
really like how easy it is to work with. Some of the cow hides I have there that are dyed, the colors don't come out even. And as you can see in this, it's pretty even. You know, the smooth side, it's like a suede. The outside is kind of suede, not really shiny.
And
I like it.
you are totally right with this, because when I did the exact same thing. I sewed it on the sewing machine, and it worked perfectly. The way I did it is I edged the material with bias tape, and then I used this as a sole. And I still believe, you know, she wore those moccasins for a really long time.
Yeah, and you know, this one thing that's nice about leather and making baby moccasins, you don't have to really worry about edging it. You know, most of these babies are not walking yet. They don't really have to be that durable. But when you do have little ones that are walking and you want a hard sole, you can do the same thing, put these together on a harder sole.
Right on, right on. So Terra, what are your plans for the summer? Where are you going to head this summer?
You know, I'm actually going back home to South Dakota for the summer.
Oh, right.
I miss my mountains. I miss my hills. I miss my family, and I miss the nice, dry 80-degry weather.
Dry. I'm telling you, I think one time I danced in South Dakota, and this is when I was back in teens, and I didn't even realize it. I was dancing, and everyone kept looking at me, and I was like, this is okay. But I was in contest, and I didn't really know. The dry weather actually caused me to have a nosebleed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I danced, I think, 2 contest songs, and didn't realize, and I actually bled like all over my aprons.
It's not funny, but I'm laughing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I know, but it was cool at the time. I was a true warrior that day.
Yes.
I was going first.
Yes.
But, you know, if I would have had blue moccasins, I think I would have got it.
Yep, you would have.
Right on. So, going back to South Dakota, you know, like, you're born and raised there, right?
Yes, I was born and raised in the Rapid City area. I'm Oglala Lakota, so my family's from the Pine Ridge Indian Reservation, but me and my sisters, we all grew up in the city.
Right on. I've been to Pine Ridge a long time ago. I think everybody's been to Pine Ridge.
Everybody's been to Pine. Everybody has a Pine Ridge story.
Right.
And everybody is like, oh, do you know so-and-so from Pine Ridge? And I'm like, do you know how many people live in Pine Ridge?
Right.
You know, they realize, you know, our enrollment numbers are close to 50,000. So,
Really?
Yeah. We're a pretty big tribe. And, you know, when you're cutting these, if you're not exactly perfect on the line, it's probably nothing to go over and over again. The first pair is always, I have a box over there of iffy ones. I wasn't, because it took me a while to practice, and I did practice with felt. If you don't feel comfortable using leather yet, I would use a felt or a stiffer felt to make these moccasins with. Or wool even. You could even do wool. And this part right here that I'm cutting out, this is the tongue.
Now, I see the tongue is you cut it just at a rectangle. A lot of like different styles of moccasins I've seen, sometimes they have like a Y in them and stuff like that. Do you also decorate them, like putting like, I've seen sometimes people putting the cones on there and putting feathers in there too.
I do my beaded moccasins, but for these contemporary moccasins, I don't. You can always add your own personal touch. What I have done is I've made little tassels out of these scraps, and I've hung them on these colored moccasins.
I've seen that before.
And so it looks pretty cool.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we come to the part where Terra is going to construct the moccasin. This is the very most intricate part of it. This takes a lot of time and a lot of, no pressure, right?
No pressure at all, but don't mess it up.
Right.
Okay, so you're going to take the top of the moccasin and you're going to take the tongue. And you want to sew the tongue on first because I've found out if you wait until after you sew the foot on, it's really hard.
Right on.
So I'm going to fold it just a little bit. You can kind of see just...
About a ½ inch or so?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then you're going to line it just below this line so that...
That little lip line, right?
Yep. So you have a little bit of space there.
And when you start sewing, what are you going to do? Are you going to do straight stitch or are you going to do zigzag?
I'm just going to do straight. With these moccasins, I always do straight. You can get fancy too if you want to for the outside. The stitches that are showing, this stitch right here actually will show on the outside of the moccasin.
Okay.
So this is this is right here is going to be the tongue, and this right here is going to be the top of the moccasin.
Right on.
So I'm going to sew those together.
Okay.
And I've found it that it's not really easy to pin the leather, and you have to be careful so it doesn't slide out. It's one of those things where I put it down exactly how I want it, and then I hurry up and stick the needle down.
What if you use heat bond on it?
I've never tried using heat bond on leather.
Heat bond works for everything. So
And I actually leave, I don't know if you can see in the camera, but I'm going to start and leave along the edge of the moccasin. I'm going to leave a little bit of room. So I'm going to trim the room.
Okay.
Do you understand? The little bit of leftovers, I'm going to bring it in probably a 1/4 of an inch. Rather than start it at the very edge of the leather.
Okay.
And I'll show you after I sew it why exactly I'm going to do that. So I have the tongue on, and as you can see, I just kind of stopped it and started it. And then pretty soon after I get the rest of the sewed together, you'll kind of understand why I did that.
Right on.
And so then I'm going to take the top of the moccasin. And you're doing it inside out, so make sure, this right here is the inside of the moccasin, and this will be the bottom, outside.
Okay.
And I've seen people use this side for the bottom, yeah.
Bottom.
But if baby's starting to walk, you don't want it too slick. And sometimes it's okay, but this rougher side gives it a little bit more traction. So
when you do this, are you going to start from the top? And then
yep,
sew
I
all the way
always
around?
start at the top. And so I'm going to start right here, and I'm going to come all the way down to right about here.
Okay.
And then I'm going to come back down to this side and stop right about here. And then I'm going to sew up the heel. Similar to how you would sew moccasins when you sew them by hand on a hard sole. So, I mean, if you're doing a hard sole on these baby moccasins, I wouldn't use the machine unless you have an industrial machine that goes through that thick sole, but for the baby ones, a regular sewing machine is fine. I don't have anything as cool as this Bernina, but it works. So I sewed all the way to this point, and I'm just going to line up the back. This is all excess, which is fine. I always make it long enough because you never really know, and you can use these squares for something later. So I'm just going to sew up straight right here.
And this is good because, you know, this is be able to fine tune the shoe all together, and it's comfortable for the foot too.
Yep.
And then later on, you're going to use the elastic to actually give it the tightness, right?
Yep.
Now, a long time ago, I've actually seen like the back end that you just cut off. I've seen them flare that out too. Those are old.
On the
school.
inside?
No, on the outside.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, on
so
the
they would reverse side it. And
yeah, it actually had, you know, like the fringe hanging out this way. Mm-hmm. That's when you really want to run fast.
oh, wow. Those are like, what are those Greek shoes with the wings on them?
Right. Those are the native Nikes.
Native Nikes. The original N7s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to flip it back inside out, or right side out, I guess. And you can kind of see it coming together. Here's the bottom. Here's the top. And this is the very top. So I'm going to take this piece, and this is tricky, and I've messed this up before, so don't mess it up. You're going to sew on the inside of this. And you
Okay.
want to put this on there to where it flips over and it's right side out. See how that's not?
Uh-huh.
So I'm going to flip it back over like this. And so when it flips over, it's matching.
All right, I get it.
Get it? Okay. So I'm going to leave a little bit of a gap or overlay and then come off. And on this one again, I'll have extra. And I'll show you what I do with my extra.
Okay. All right, now we come to the point where we're almost finished sewing up our moccasin. What do we got left?
So right now I'm going to flip this over, and you can really, really start to see it take more shape in getting to where it, you know what it's going to look like. Because I didn't show you guys ahead of time what it would look like.
When you put this together, you're actually making that little canal for like the elastic or the
Yep.
shoestring, right?
Yep, that's the part we're going to do. So, and it'll tie into this one.
Okay.
So that is what I'm going to do now.
And you kind of want to eyeball this. What is it? Maybe like 1/4 of an inch? That's what you're trying to do?
What I usually do, my rule is, I always center my needle on the sewing machine.
Okay.
So I put this to where it sits flat.
Okay.
And that gives you plenty of room.
All right.
And that's just how I do it, and mostly because it's easier to go straight.
And the whole idea that you do that is just so you can wiggle like the elastic shoestring or, you know, buckskin, whatever you want to do to actually tie up the moccasin.
Yep.
Tara's finally finished up her Muppet moccasin. Now, what are you going to do now? You're going to cut out some fringe for it?
Yep, I'm going to just kind of trim it up and make it look a little nice. You can kind of see it looks goofy. So what I'm going to do first is this excess right here, I'm going to kind of cut at an angle.
Uh-huh.
And so it lines up there. And I'm going to do this all before I lace it, because the lacing is pretty much one of the last steps.
And what kind of lace are we going with?
I actually used this elastic that I found on Etsy. It's really thin, and I try to order it the color of the moccasins, which I do not have turquoise, so I'm using white. But then that way, you can't see it.
Right.
It blends in. One thing I also do, and this is just what I like to do, is I cut these at an angle. Just gives it a little bit more. I mean, you can always add your own touch to these moccasins. You don't have to add fringe. You can add fringe. You can do lots of fringe. I've seen people round the fringe.
Well, whenever you want to reorder that, like, This elastic, I got a bunch of it. I got some underwears that are on their last leg, and I can pull those out if you want them.
You know, I think I'll pass on that one.
right.
You should save those for your turquoise moccasins that you're going to work on.
You know, I might have to do
You
that.
might, yeah. So I'm going to cut the fringe, and I'm just going to cut it straight. I've seen people cut it like at a V, like cut this as a V and then fringe it, or round it and then cut it. It's all about what you want it to do. You can put your own twist on it.
Cool, cool.
So I'm just going to do basic fringe. You could even do different colors if you wanted to. I've mixed, I think it was actually turquoise and an actual buckskin. You know, put the buckskin fringe on the turquoise moccasin. So I got the fringe. You can kind of see it's all the way around. And then I'm going to put the elastic in. And since I forgot to bring I usually use a safety pin, but this is something cool that I invented. I'm just going to put the elastic on here, and this will help you lace it easier.
So are you trying to pierce the elastic?
Yep, I'm just, like if, have you ever put elastic and stuff and use the safety pin to pull it through? No?
No.
I usually use a safety pin, but paper clips will work. And then we're going to go through the tongue. And then we can pull it off of there.
Usually, when I work with elastics like this, usually I'll use a lighter to burn the edges and stuff and kind of get it a little, that way, you know, I know the knot will never come out and it's kind of permanent too.
Yeah,
so.
that's a good idea too. And then I kind of push the knot into the hole so you can't see it. It's not as lumpy. If I can get this one through there.
Our Muppet moccasins are done. There you go. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the conclusion of our final show here in season 2. I want to thank you again, Terra, for coming on the show. And people, ladies and gentlemen, she does take orders. So this is one of the people that you can hit up. How do they get a hold of you, Terra?
You can usually find me on Instagram, or you can hit me up at terrahouska@gmail.com.
And ladies and gentlemen, she makes all dresses, regalia, Muppet moccasins, earrings. So, you know, hit her up. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank everyone for tuning in. This has been an awesome season, this season 2. Season 3, we got some more stuff coming in for you. I want to thank Bernita of Oklahoma City, powwows.com, Barona Valley Ranch out there in Southern California. Thanks for the sponsorship. And once again, thank you everybody out there for tuning in to Making Regalia with me, Joaquin Lone Lodge. Ha-ho.
Bye-bye.